हमारे वाइस चांसलर प्रोफेसर डॉक्टर असगर अजदी साहब का बहुत शुक्रगुजार हूँ कि उन्होंने हमें हर जगह पे सपोर्ट किया और हमें मौका दिया इस तरह के एक इवेंट करवाने का। उसके बाद मैं हमारे डिबेटिंग सोसाइटी के एडवाइज़र सिद्दीक अवान साहब का शुक्रगुजार हूँ कि वो हमारे साथ साथ रहते हैं, हमें उन्होंने मौका दिया। दूसरी बात ये है कि आज की जो डिबेट है वो मॉक डिबेट है, जो ख़ास तौर पे नए स्पीकर्स के लिए ये एक लर्निंग प्रोसेस है। तो जितने लोग इस आईवीपीडी में हिस्सा ले रहे हैं, वो खा उर्दू का था, उसमें भी हमने एक मॉक डिबेट करवाई थी, अब ये इंग्लिश का है। इसमें ये डिबेट हम इसलिए करवा रहे हैं ताकि आप लोग ये ऑब्जर्व कर सकें कि किस तरीके से जो दलील है वो बनती है और किस तरीके से उसको सामीन के सामने पेश किया जाता है और मुंसिफीन को किस तरीके से कायल किया जाता है। इसीलिए जितने भी कुछ हमारे पास सीनियर स्पीकर्स हैं, उनको बुलवाने का मकसद यही है कि आप लोग जो पार्लियामेंट्री स्टाइल ऑफ डिबेट है, उसको बेहतर तरीके से सीख सकें। आज की हमारी जो 2 टीम्स हैं, उनमें टॉप में हमारे पास इज़ा कमर हैं, शाहजहां ताहिर हैं और मुनीबुर रहमान हैं। ऑफ में हमारे पास अली औसजा, नूर अहमद और इब्राहिम नईम हैं। और हमारी आज की डिबेट का मोशन है, दिस हाउस डज नॉट एनविसेज अ रोल फॉर स्टूडेंट्स इन पॉलिटिक्स। तो क्या मुझे शुरू करवा देना चाहिए इब्राहिम? शुरू करवा दूं मैं? हेलो
जी ज़ोहेब भाई, अगर प्रोपोजिशन का फर्स्ट स्पीकर रेडी है या रेडी हैं तो शुरू करवा दें।
प्रॉप से हमारे पास जो फर्स्ट स्पीकर हैं वो इज़ा कमर हैं। मैं उन्हें दावत देता हूं कि वो आए और अपने इस मोशन के हक में दलाइल पेश करें।
Am I audible?
Yeah, clear.
Yes, you are,
Ibrahim,
Iza.
can you share the timer on the screen?
Yes, एक second. Aisha Khalid, are you in the meeting?
Yes, I've already messaged you. Allow me to share the screen.
ठीक है. Here you go. Now you can share your screen. कर लो.
Can you guys see the timer?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Yeah, we can.
All right, starting in 3, 2, 1. This house does not envisage a role for students in politics, right? What is the need for this debate? We understand that politics is kind of concerned with power, right? There are certain political power dynamics that involve the ability of making decisions and involve people in authority powers, right? But first and foremost, we need to talk about the most important actor in this debate, that is the students, right? What do we mean when we're saying students? We mean these are people that are easily conformed to state apparatus due to the fact that they have been in state schools where they have been indoctrinated for more than around the time of 12 years, right? Secondly, we're talking about how these are financially unsecure individuals who cannot give in to the same kind of requirements of resources that politics asks for. Thirdly, we're talking about how these are slightly less rational adults who are still coming into their adulthood, and the rationality comes from the kind of experience that they currently do not possess, right? And furthermore, we're talking about the kind of students that step into universities with this idea of open eagerness, which is the kind of relationship that they have with their with their teachers as well, which makes them liable to the kind of vulnerability due to which they can be easily influenced and can easily be swayed with strong rhetoric or with stronger words, right? Secondly, we need to talk about what we mean by politics, right? And what we mean by role in politics. We're not saying there are certain clarifications that need to be made here. We're not saying that by this we mean that students shouldn't partake in voting, or that students shouldn't have the kind of bare minimum political participation within the university matters where they can protest for their rights, or where they can send maybe letters to the VC, or where they're asking for basic facilities, right? We believe that when we're saying about political participation, we're not outlining or shielding them away from having alternative sources from which they can have political knowledge, right? What we mean by role in politics is that by this, what they mean is they're aligning themselves with certain parties and conducting the kind of activities that are specific for those parties' ideologies or for those parties' purposes, right? We're talking about how political activism is very different, is stands directly in contrast with political knowledge, right? So political activism requires for you to be on the ground and spend your time and energy on it, right? But political knowledge is something that you do need to gain in order to have a kind of critical thinking that you then later apply into your life after you've graduated or after you've fully stepped into your adulthood. Lastly, we need to clarify that what is the purpose of universities, and what do we mean by when these students need the kind of education, which is our principle that it is more important for these students to have their education rather than to be is indulging in political activities, right? We're talking about how the purpose of universities is limited and is fully based upon how these students need to be made more tolerable, need to be made brought into the kind of inclusive society that they will later have to live in, right? I will only accept POIs in chat. Discussing all of this about how there is a purpose of universities, about how what kind of students are we talking about what the role of politics in politics is, right? We go back onto our need for this debate, in which we've told you about how politics is kind of a power game, right? It always involves the idea of power within it, where this power allows for the ability to make decisions that impact the society on a grand level and on an individual level, and has a certain kind of authority philosophy connected with it, right? Even in universities, we see about how there are certain already politically affiliated with the mainstream parties, organizations, right? For example, we have the PSC, which has a lot of Marxist ideologies and philosophies that are correlated to it. Secondly, we have Jamiyat, right? That are heavily influenced by Fazlur Rahman's political parties. So we understand that these political parties, or this role that the students will be playing, will always be influenced by someone and will always have this kind of authoritative or political power kind of a connection to it, right? We finally move on to what we're going to be explaining to you in this debate, right? We'll have two arguments. First will be about how an active role in politics damages the social security of students, and secondly about the hostility that it incites within these students, right? Moving on to our first argument, we have to discuss a certain premise and certain context of what we're talking about. You understand that there is a certain middle class or poor class majority that goes to universities because they're dependent on this kind of social mobility, which allows them to move up on the social ladder and the status quo, which can only be achieved through degrees and then later through jobs, right? So we understand that there is a huge importance of these degrees for the kind of social mobility and social security that these students need to have, which primarily majorly belong to middle class or poor class families, right? Why are we saying that politics will impair your degree, right? Four reasons for this. First and foremost, we're talking about how politics requires a lot of resources, and these resources can come in the form of obviously monetary resources, but then also a lot of time and energy, right? Something we mentioned to you before. When we're talking about students going into politics, we understand that these students can only give their time and energy, right? This takes away their focus from their classes. This takes away their focus from working on themselves to be better human beings, or to be better students, or to accomplish something that actually helps them later in their life, right? That is the first way that we understand. If political requires a lot of resources and students aren't able to give these resources, that heavily damages their ability to act properly, right? Secondly, we tell you about how politics and political events are really uncertain. They cannot be predicted, they cannot be foreseen, right? You have high media coverages for these acts. For example, if you have a motorway incident, no one knew that would happen, and therefore you could never have planned the kind of social capital that could have come from this, and then that social capital that you need to now gain in order to to move further into the political agenda or into the political stratosphere, right? So these unforeseen acts do not allow students to have the kind of routine that they need to have in order to become better students, or in order to participate within projects of their universities or within their exams, right? So these students are vulnerable, they have so much at stake, and a lot of so much at stake in comparison to the kind of adults that do not have the same responsibility, right? Thirdly, we talked about the ideologues and the politicians that can incite propaganda by having very strong rhetoric, right? So for example, you have Amar Ali Jan that tells these students that studies are not as important at that, and that there is if you're being told that politics is wrong, you need to fight against that, and you need to have this kind of protest against that. So they show an urgency for revolution, and this urgency then does not have the same kind of incentive left for students to continue their studies. Instead, they get harmed by these revolutions, after which no one is left there to help them, right? Fourthly and lastly, we talked about how authoritative countries and specifically have this kind of idea already, where universities do not allow them to participate in political activities, right? This results in their loss of degrees, in lawsuits, etc., which these students cannot deal with. So we've told you all of this, and now we highlight the impacts about how these students not being able to get jobs will create a spiral of unemployment, right? Secondly, this negative narrative about how politics ruins your life will get reinforced, especially in the years of students who are the years of the life of the students will become an stereotype, right, about and incite a politicization. Lastly, we tell you about how this negative narrative and this best, even in the best case scenario, these do not have the same kind of skills that are required in a capitalistic world, and will instead be very harmful for their mental health, right? Due to all of these reasons, we believe that we have actually, thank you.
जी, अब मैं ऑपोजिशन से दावत देता हूं अली औसिया बुखारी को कि वो आएं और इस मोशन के मुखालफत में अपने दलाइल पेश करें।
Am I audible enough?
जी जी।
Yes,
Okay,
you
so
are.
I'll start my speech in 3, 2, 1. Just one clarification in this debate, and that will clear you out the whole proposition case. That clarification is that we are not forcing student politics onto the students. Those who want to by choice start or do politics, will be allowing them to do student politics. This is the whole response to their whole case, because in their all arguments where they claim that the student's life will be affected, the student will be unable to manage, the student's life will be destroyed, we believe that it is his choice, even in the worst case scenario, even if it all is happening with them. So we believe that today, because we are not enforcing it, so all the arguments or all the line of argument that you were trying to present falls out of this debate. By example, they tell to us in this debate that look, it can take your time, it can take your energy and resources, so you shouldn't be doing student politics at the very first place. But you need to understand that state also give you some permissions to do that might also take your resources. But if you want to do it, state allows you to do that. For example, if a person wants to go in sports, it might take his resources, it might take his time as well. But if it is his desire to do something, the state does not encourage his right to do that. Similarly, we believe if a person thinks that there exist problems in their society, and those problems can be highlighted, or at least or can be solved through his political participation, or through gathering the political support that he might possess, we believe that today he has that right to do, and we believe that there is nothing wrong about it. And lastly, that they had all their concern with the student politics, the whole concern was completely based that they can be influenced. And in their own example, they told that there can be always two sects which can influence, and there exists an equal probability of influencing them, because they told that even if on a comparative, if PhD is influencing people, on the same side, Jamaat Ulama Islami is also influencing people. So if both narratives can exist and people are rational enough, or at least can form enough choices to select what they want to do, we feel that there is no problem in going for the politics. What will side opposition bring in this debate for you? First of all, we'll tell you that how it is principal responsibility and it is principally justified for the students to do politics. What do we mean by politics in this debate? We don't think that in this debate, politics is only about achieving power or achieving something through sitting on the throne. We believe that politics is what we feel or observe in our day-to-day life. The politics is also the mechanization of industries. It is also the decisions about economics. It's also the decision about climate change, etc. And we need to understand that these things are also affecting the students at the get-go as well. It impacts and it affects them as well. So any policy that is being made on the state level, it is also affecting the students at the very get-go as well. Through which we prove that today politics is a thing that is affecting the student at the very first place. Secondly, we believe that if a certain thing is affecting you, you should have the authority or you should have the power to exert a pressure against it. Why we believe that it should exist? Two reasons for that. Firstly, we think that we are capable enough for that. And secondly, we think that it is needed. Why are we capable enough? If state gives you voting right at the age of 18, we believe that state consider you mature enough and rational enough to interfere into state's apparatus. And secondly, those people who are getting education are getting certain education regarding those political aspects as well, regarding those political problems as well, which they need to address. And thirdly, they are also facing those problems by themselves as well, which are existing into the society. So why do we need a political presence or a political stakeholder in our side of the house? We believe that voting right is not ample enough in today's status quo to help you achieve something into the society. And what are the reasons for that? We believe that today we see traditional politics on the seats of politics, and they are the ones who are decision makers of the today, and they do not associate themselves with the modern problems that these students face, which are the problems like curriculum, which are the problems like administrative mafias exerting their forces onto these students. So we believe that because of their traditional approaches, when they have to sway away only a larger demographic of people who don't face these problems or who are not that much attached to these problems, we believe that today you need a political actor in your side of the house, in your world, and that can actually raise your voice for the matters or the problems that you face. So in our principal argument, we prove to you that politics is because affecting you. You need to exert a pressure or to change it or to affect it at any cost. And then we provide you two reasons: that first of all, you are capable enough for it, and secondly, that it is needed because other methods have failed. Now moving on to our second argument, which is that how the student unions can help us achieve some goals, and even if they fail, even in our worst case scenario, they still bring us some benefits that I'll be describing you now. We believe that first let's understand what will this pressure look like. The student unions can exist in the form of existing as unions. They can have elections within unions. They will then conduct rallies and marches. They can exist in the form of youth wings of political parties. This will affect in a form that they can come on, and there will be rallies that will actually transcribe or put pressure on state by coming onto the roads. Now, what will this help us achieve? We believe that there exist political parties who will try to use these people, who will try to lobby with these people and try to give them some benefit, or at least try to get them towards their side and try to achieve some things. And through this, we believe that today these student unions, this student politics can achieve some things. But even in our worst case, even if we fail and we do not we are not completely successful in bringing our ideas to the assemblies, we still can generate some benefit. And how will that benefit will be generated? This is an important point to be understood. There exists a subconscious pressure in the mind of state regarding these people. What is that subconscious pressure? Those people who are going to do student politics or who still do student politics still exert some pressure on the state structure. What are these? What is that pressure? State structures try to stop those people. They spy on them. They carry cyber spying on them. They have to abduct such people who are trying to do such things. So all this we prove that state is somehow spending or spending some expenditure on these people. Now in our model, when there will be student unions, there will be student politics, and they'll be putting some pressure to at least bring about this change. Now the state will at least weigh up and at least offer some concession to these people, and in the result, they'll at least concede with some of the ground, and at least some of the positive changes can be still brought about. But lastly, even if those small changes are not brought about, we believe that this student politics provides a hope to disenfranchised people. How is that so? We believe that today those people are affected, they are discriminated, and they face all the problems. But today, through student politics, they'll get an incentive that they have ability to actively work for what they want. And secondly, they'll get the socialization aspect when they'll gather and meet all those people who are striving for the same cause as well. So we believe in our worst case scenario, even we are providing them an ability to actively work for them, or socialize, or a sense of solidarity. So what do we prove to you in this debate? We prove to you in this debate that how it is principal responsibility of those students to actively engage in politics, and secondly, that how engaging in politics can help us on 3 different levels. Firstly, if we achieve through identification of those ideas into assemblies, or secondly, even if not that, the subconscious pressure will lead to some marginal benefits, and on third stage, that how it is an hope to disenfranchise people. For all those reasons, proud to oppose.
बहुत शुक्रिया। अब मैं प्रॉप से दावत देता हूं शाहजहान ताहिर को।
Just a confirmatory mic check. Am I audible?
Yes, you are, Shah.
Okay. I'll be taking POIs verbally, but I'll be mentioning when I'm going to take the POI. It's most likely going to be around 5:30 odd. So do not put it on chat. Do not say it out verbally. I'll be taking it myself. So yeah, I'll be beginning my speech in 3, 2, 1. When Greta Thunberg says that you have stolen my childhood, she is very clear on one point, that despite the fact that the system is so rotten that now the children have to come, or students have to come to street and do the work that ideally individuals should have done, doesn't mean that students have a responsibility or a moral burden to do these particular things. Just because students are able to do this particular political organization, just because they're able to, bring about revolutions in Chile, etc., doesn't mean that they have an inherent moral responsibility to do that. This is the responsibility of those people who are in power, those people who are in the corridors of power. We think they have to prove that why this principal responsibility falls on students. They have already lost this debate. But what did they prove to you when they talk about principal justification? An extremely, extremely random claim that just because state policies affect students, now they have the responsibility to act. By that logic, every person in Pakistan should be sitting in a parliament because, every state policy is affecting them. Why do you have elected representatives to represent your interests in parliament? It's because not every stakeholder has enough time or has enough energy to channelize those interests for you. But secondly, even if the state policies affect these people and then they incur some kind of responsibility from these people, we think you have to weigh them out in the real world. In the real world, they're likely to lose their jobs. They're likely to lose their employment abilities. They're likely to make it so that they're never going to climb the social ladder. They're going to lose so many things. All of these harms make it so that we think it's preferable that they do not, create that kind of moral, fulfill that kind of moral responsibility. Just because a certain moral responsibility exists, you have to fulfill it. No warrant absolutely ever. We think the harms outweigh in that particular regard to begin with. But secondly, they say that state has already given you the right to vote, so hence you are rational, and the argument of rationality somehow falls down. It's untrue, because voting is an extremely personal matter to begin with. It's a passive process. You learn from the system what is going around, then you make a decision, then you apply it into a secretive ballot box. While politics implied that you are now responsible as a political worker to contribute all your energies because you have a membership attached to that particular group, and now you have the responsibility of galvanizing other people into the political fold as well, right? We think those two things are categorically different in terms of their opportunity cost. Voting is just simply you get, you receive, and then you perform. here you have to actually do the legwork. Why do these people have a responsibility to do that legwork is something that they do not understand to us in this particular debate. They think they have already lost this idea. Thirdly, they say that, oh, just because PSC exists and now Jamiyat exists, there is a counter narrative thing happening, and hence we should, let political students union be. I'll be tackling this entire idea as to why student politics, in especially third world countries, is going to have a disproportionate favor towards right wing. So it will already be dealt with in my particular positive case. Lastly, they say that students' power will be so much that they'll be able to gain concessions from the state, etc. Right? What concessions are those? They do not outline. What is the process analysis behind that from point A to B? They do not tell us, right? But we think that these students' unions are not going to be going to get those kind of concessions. In my positive case, I'll also explain to you, what is going to be my positive case in today's house. My positive case is to be that how active role of students in student politics works disproportionately in favor of right-wing propaganda. What is right-wing to begin with, and how does it activate in today's status quo is something that we need to understand first. Firstly, we think students, because of the fact that they have gone through a historical process of conformity of state cultivation through propaganda machinery, through media curriculum, these people have a certain amount of relatability towards these, and hence they're likely to be influenced by these views much more than they are likely to be influenced by leftist organization. Secondly, state propaganda also implies that there's a historical narrative that, leftists are anti-religion, etc., or that they are only people that promote violence, etc. Hence, there are counter narratives existing towards these particular organizations. Secondly, oftentimes these right-wing political organizations appeal to religion. Understand then, when even if you're not likely to join party politics, when these people are writing narratives of Khatme Nabuwat, etc., that your prophet is under attack or your dignity is under attack, hence we should go on and lynch Mashal Khan, they're likely to respond towards these people much more, because religion and family structure kind of things do not give you that kind of a choice. Hence they're likely to be influenced by them more. Thirdly, we think historical alliance with these kind of groups by the state makes it so that they have much more resources, much more people are likely to give donations towards these right-wing organizations, etc., which means that they have a larger political capital than these particular small minority leftist groups. But fourthly, we think generally we are living in under an age of populism, in which right-wing anti-minority views are going to be disseminated, right? Assuming that these particular people have so much social and intellectual capital, most of the students are going to join them because of their previous religious beliefs. The burden for leftist organizations is to first make them unlearn all of that bigotry, which is extremely difficult across 4 years of university to begin with. And especially when there exists counter narrative that these people are anti-religion, these people are less likely to join them in the first place. What impact does it have? Threefold. Number one, previously when these right-wing propaganda was, spreading anti-minority views on campuses, you had a narrative that, oh, politics isn't allowed on campus, hence you shouldn't do this, hence this is detestable. Now that kind of right-wing propaganda and its dissemination on campus is likely to get legitimized because it's seen as something that is legitimate. When you envisage a role for the students in the politics, you legitimize politics on campus, and you legitimize the spread of right-wing propaganda on campus. And because it is based and rooted in religion, which doesn't give you a choice, people are more likely to be much more violent in that particular regard. But secondly, and this also breaks down their analysis of how there will be unity within the students and how they will be, getting the concessions from the state. Oftentimes, in a vast majority of circumstances, these students are going to get into party affiliations, which means that even on issues that are of common interest, because of their party parochialism, because of the fact that they're influenced by party narratives, they're not going to have a unity together, which means that they're less likely that state is going to give them concessions anyway. But secondly, mostly these students are going to be joining fragmented parties, and there is so small likelihood of student unity to begin with, right? Assuming that is true, right? Because of the party parochialism idea, we think that it's going to be internally destructured because of these party lines. But thirdly, we think right-wing propaganda and all of these people get more coverage, get more people to bank upon, and to more people in their resource bag to use for their political purposes. We think it's going to be legitimately worse. On a comparative, we feel that if you allow the student unions to work, because of the fact that these right-wing student unions are in vogue, are appealing to things like religion, and leftist organizations have strong historical, intellectual anti-narratives against them, most people are likely to join them. And because of that parochialism idea, we feel like they're not going to join in further. Just because students have the ability because of their numerical numbers to bring a change doesn't mean that they have a moral responsibility to bring change. This is important to notice in this debate because that's a principal underpinning on which they lose this debate. And just because the thing affects you, how does that incur a moral responsibility on you to act? If I, as a Black person, face a kind of oppression from the society, doesn't mean that I have a responsibility to join the Black Lives Matter, right? I might join it and it may support my movement, but it does not incur my. In fact, we think it's patronizing to say to the people who are already oppressed to lose their jobs, to lose their social capital, to compromise on their mental health, of all the reasons that is providing to you. Last idea that, oh, we are giving them a choice. When you appeal to religion, there is no choice. When these ideologues tell you that there is a revolution that is need to happen today, you are left with no choice. There is no free choice in this world. Students are vulnerable actors. We need to protect them. For all of these reasons, propose.
बहुत शुक्रिया जी। अब मैं ऑपोजिशन से दावत देता हूँ। नूर अहमद। Yes, you are.
Okay, so I am starting in 3, 2, 1. Shah Jahan's whole line of argument it depends on the fact that okay, these student unions and these things won't work properly. This debate is not only about the student unions, which means that your whole case, which was dependent on the fact that student unions or these could not bring a change, would definitely. There is a lot of distortion from participants. So can we please restart this speech? Tachan, your mic is on.
Yeah, Noor, I've muted his mic. Aap bolo. Please, everyone else, please try to keep your mics mute as well.
Okay, so I am again starting in 3. और मैं chat में ही POI prefer करूँगा और like if I want to take any POI and if whenever I will feel it feasible to take POI, then I'll take it. So please write your POIs in chat. Okay, so I'm starting in 3, 2, 1. Their half of the case depends on like their 80% case depends on the fact that student unions won't work properly. This debate is not only about the student union. This debate is generally about the student politics at all. Even if the student union exists or not, student politics still exists in this particular on this particular country. So this is how.
नूर, आपकी आवाज बंद हो गई है. You've muted yourself.
I think.
Pause कर दो, please time.
Noor, you are not audible.
Noor, you're not audible. Slightly. ऊंचा बोलो या करीब आके बोलो.
I think मुझे एकदम कोई शोर आता है, मेरा कोई होगा नेट का मसला है या पता नहीं कुछ ऐसा सीन है.
Hey, don't stop. आपकी आवाज आ रही होती है और आप एकदम से रुक जाते हो. If the only problem that you're having is that आपको कोई शोर की आवाज आ रही है, तो you just continue.
Okay, ठीक है. Wait. Let me.
Should I reset the timer?
Yeah, please, Aisha. Sorry guys. Sorry for disturbance.
No problem.
Okay, so I am starting in 3, 2, 1. Radical politics, or you can say radical student politics, or even radical argument does not work in each and every particular debate. And so Shahjahan, you need to understand that, and I'll show you that why this is not a case here, and I'll show you that why the trade-off of an argument is also existing at all sides of the house. But before I move on, there is a technical problem within their case, that is that they are only talking about the student unions. We say that no, this debate is not only about the student politics, this student union. This debate is generally about the student politics, even if they are aligned with the right wing party, and there is a PTI PTI student union, student or youth wing, or even if there is a democratic youth wing, they are still still people are working as a student politics there, and even if they do not come up as a union, they can still force fight for their right from the very get go. So the idea which you are trying to say here is somehow false light as your side of the house. Even if they people do not join the student union and do not make student union, these people are still working for those right wing people and still working with the PTI youth wing. So your whole idea of the of investing resources, investing their emotional intelligence falls is still at your side of the house. You have to exclusively tell us that why that thing will not exist when student politics will not be there, or student union will not be there in and on itself. So this is something which you tell you never tell us that how this is gonna work. On second idea that okay, they would lose job, how they are losing job, we didn't get that point, because if someone particular person who is a student and going to protest in the protest for his rights, how he's gonna lose the job. If doctors are protesting for their rights, they are also not losing their job. This is something which is inherent, which is based on assumption that they will lose their job. The second assumption they have in their case is okay, look, Amar Ali Jan is teaching students that okay, study is bad and youth politics is good. We said no. He is teaching student of politics, and he's a professor of that, and we didn't see a lot of students coming out just because of the fact that okay, he teaches that okay, this is a political or he tell us that okay, politics is good and studies is bad, and we never seen people leaving their degrees, leaving their studies for the politics. This is again an assumption or actually inaccurate argument they made here. But moving on to the Shah Jahan's particular radical argumentation, where he was saying that okay, there is a right wing propaganda. We say that right wing propaganda propaganda exists either way or either side of the house, but still you are stealing the platform for those progressive people who are fighting for their rights, or who are progressive in their nature and want the flexibility within the structures, and want rights for the students which students are not gaining right here. So the trade-off is still better at our side of the house. Your house is not showing that how this would be beneficial when the students will not do the politics at all. Your burden in this debate was not only to prove that why student politics is bad. You have to show to us that why if student politics would not be there, that would be beneficial, and the problems which you are highlighting here would not be there in your side of the house, where the student politics will not is not existing. But on to the second argument, though those people join extreme parties and build extreme propaganda, what are three responses to that? We say that these people join extreme or become extreme when these people get frustrated. How they get frustrated? Because of the fact that these people are not given a chance to do protest, when these people are not given chance to express their feelings, which they are thinking about the political or political agendas, economical agendas, or even the educational agendas. Then they join an alternative ways where they think that okay, this thing gonna work us, this thing will give at least a chance to progress within the society. And secondly, there are two types of things which is going to happen, that there will be progressive, there will be conservative. So the conservative who are progressive would not become extremists, because they know that okay, if we would become extremists, definitely there would be a backlash coming. But if even if the conservative become the extremists, we have a lot of jurisdiction on them, and they would take extremism as we taking in general life. And if they would do extremism and do certain kind of anti-state narrative narratives which are really against the state, with there is jurisdiction who will take them on hands. But on to my positive case, which I'm going to tell you why student politics in itself is important and why it is necessary for them to do that for two reasons. The first reason is important, in which we are going to tell you that these students whose social political power is too low, these students who do not have money or family connection, those students who do not belong to the privileged class, get a chance to do politics. How they are going to start, and this is how I frame my argument. Student politics provide an opportunity for young men and women without big money, family connection, and patronage to emerge on the political scene. Student politics introduce them to different political ideologies and ideas. This increase their understanding of the political, social, and economic issues and their solutions. When these people will go on to the upper level or into the structure which they were talking about has the moral responsibility, these people would solve this problem better in the state. But even if these people are not going to better the state, but still they are enjoying their democratic right, which is the participatory democracy, which is given in the liberal democracies, or even in any form of the democratic process, which is the participation. And when these people are doing the student politics, they are actually raising their issues and participating in the democratic process, or even in the politics, because politics is not only contingent with the power contingent, it is contingent also with the problems, or problems lies on the ground realities. And that's why we say that it is important to raise those problems, important to raise those points which are problematic within this town. But onto the second tangent of this debate, we say that the people who are disenfranchised get space there. For example, the women get space because they are disadvantaged, and women cannot get a lot of space in the politics and cannot come up and state a lot of problems which they are facing. But they are going to do it because of the social norms existing within the society. But that because of the fact that we think, or we take women which are students, that because we are accepting them, we give them chance, like Muhibba Ahmed becoming a leader within the PSC student politics, which is confirming that women, or like Aruj Aurangzeb, and student and women who are looking at them are becoming more and more into the politics, is giving those oppressed gender community to come up and raise their point as well, which is also better for democracy, because democracy always talk about the people, which is not happening at other type of the politics, but happening in the social, in this particular politics. But a third point which is important is about the extremism, which I have already dealt with. The idea that when you will give these people a platform to express their feelings, these people would not become Jamiat at all, and would not receive the narratives of Islamization or Hindutva, because of the fact that we are giving now the chance to flourish or become progressive, and both type of the narrative would exist, the right and the left wing. Definitely that would progress. Okay, left wing is marginalized because of no resources. We think that no, they do have resources, and they are working a lot to get resources from the Canadian or any particular progressive countries that would help them achieve their narratives. And we say that even if we concede your case that okay, these are marginalized, do not have resources, they are not critically thinker, or whatever they think, tell us that how the change will come in the society. Change would not come when you will not take steps. West didn't flourish when they never took the step. They took step. That's why they are proud of their universities like Harvard, MIT, Oxford, or whatnot, because of the fact that they take step to get something or to achieve something in the society. For all those reasons, opposing.
जी, अब मैं प्रॉप से दावत देता हूँ मुनीबुर रहमान को.
Am I audible?
जी.
Okay. Start the speech in 3, 2, 1. Ladies and gentlemen, first of all, understand this. Islam and talks about how the political system in the world works and how students are more likely to lose their jobs, their degrees, which will harm them in a longer run. Engagement from the whole opposition on this idea is simple and in two tangents. First, Ali comes up here and talks about that how when student will engage in activities which are progressive in their nature, they are going to occur a change. We do not understand what that change will look like, but somehow they prove to us that a change will occur. Noor comes up here and talks about that we think that even if there are more people inclined to right-wing parties or extremist parties, a change will occur. We still don't understand how that change will occur, because we categorically told you in Shah Jahan's speech that even if students are allowed to do politics, more of the students are inclined to the extreme wing ideologies. Their response was that no, people inclined to right-wing ideologies just because they are frustrated. We think this is not true. There are multiple reasons why people are inclined to extreme or right-wing politics. And Shah Jahan categorically analyzed it for you. A, the pressure of religion. B, the pressure of family. C, how after globalization has emerged on the international forum, there's a shift in the populist narratives in the world. We told you multiple reasons. They never engaged with it. They simply told you that it is because of frustration, and when we will provide the medium or a way to those students, they will simply become progressive in their nature. We do not understand how they will become progressive in their nature. No analysis whatsoever. Secondly, they talk about that how poor will get a chance to do politics in their model. A, how is this exclusive to students? Why students after graduation cannot do politics? B, we think that we categorically told you that there's a difference between political awareness and there's a difference between political activism. Political awareness is simply when you know about certain issues, you talk about those issues, you talk about, let's say, fees hike and stuff like that. But political activism is simply about when you engage with a certain political ideology or you engage with a certain political party, and then you pursue your interests according to the needs of that political party. We told you this is problematic or on 4 to 5 tangents, that how students do not get a chance to focus on their studies properly, that will eventually lead them to drop their degrees, they don't get a job. And even if in your best case scenario, that is that some change will occur, we think that even if that change will happen, students who are underprivileged will still be at disadvantage. Why? Because even after the revolution or some change that you are talking about, those students who simply do not have means to emerge in the mainstream politics will always be disadvantaged. They will not have jobs. They will not know how to earn breads, etc. So they will always be disadvantaged in your best case scenario. Noor also talked about that how doctors somehow do protests, etc., and how they do not waste their time. We told you, and this is a simple analysis, that there's a difference between an actor who is not a student and a student. A student is at that stage of their life and they never engage with our whole idea of who a student is. A student is a person who is at that stage of their life, who is vulnerable. He is in a relation, in a dialectical relation with their teachers. Teachers have certain influences over them. They are not rationally developed. How students are vulnerable economically, financially, emotionally. So they are more likely to be swayed by any political organization or any political party. So we think that doctors have certain means of income. They are financially stable. They are not as much as vulnerable as students. So we don't understand how this analogy fits in here. Now, why we win this debate? There were two basic issues in the debate. What were those issues? A, is the timer on? Okay. There were two issues in the debate. First issue was that if we want students to do politics, they are going to be disadvantaged in their life. Just because a person is capable of doing something, as Shah Jahan stated, does not mean that that person has a burden to do it. We told you that if students are going to pursue their degrees with focus, they have a more likely chance that they will get jobs which will sustain them. On the other hand, on a comparative, when students are doing politics, we presented you with 4 different analyses that why they will be disadvantaged to get a job. They will not have more skills. They will not have a degree. What will it do? We told you categorically its impact that was never engaged. At first, those students will be disadvantaged, and we think students are the main stakeholder of this debate. Secondly, overall image of politics will be portrayed with a stereotype. We still see and listen to these slogans that how politics is bad, people who do politics are inherently bad. You are legitimizing that stereotype when those students are going to fail, when those students will not be able to pursue their degrees at first. Second issue of the debate was that how this right-wing propaganda does not work in the debate, as Noor stated. We clearly told you that even if you give the power to the students to do politics, there are certain factors in the society, factors like religion, factors like inclination towards capitalism, factors like traditional familial methods. These factors will affect that student, and that student is going to be more inclined towards right-wing parties. And if that student is more inclined towards right-wing parties, we told you two impacts of it. First impact was that student will inherently not be able to engage on the critical issues of the university. The whole politics will be divided into bits and pieces. The resentment against each other will be on the basis of, oh, okay, you are left wing, I am right wing. We cannot stand together even in front of the vice chancellor of our university. But when the students are not engage with political activism and political organizations, we think that they will be aware of their issues and they can come to a common ground because they do not have their egos attached with certain political ideologies. That's what we told you. Second impact of it, we told you that how, if you are going to do this, the right-wing parties will be at benefit just because of their historical context and just because how strong they are in specifically third world countries. So the case that Ali Osra was trying to talk about, that how there is going to be a shift when left-wing parties will talk about it or left-wing students will talk about it, we think that there will be no impact of it or next to minimal impact, just because right-wing parties have more popularity in these countries, or on a comparative, we think that even if there is going to be an impact, the right wing will be able to curb that impact simply from the power structures. On all these bases, we think that we clearly win this debate after their first speaker. Thank you.
बहुत शुक्रिया। अब मैं ऑपोजिशन से दाव देता हूं इब्राहिम नईम को।
Am I audible?
Yeah, Ibrahim, you are audible.
Okay. Just give me a second. Okay. So I'll be starting in 3, 2, 1. There are 5 major contentions that I have throughout their entire speeches, and which will be the basis upon which we'll be winning this match. The first is things that they miss on their side, or argumentation that they miss. The second is what they do wrong. The third is about the rationality of the argumentation. The fourth is about resources and efficacy. And the fifth is about the right-wing propaganda argument that Shah Jahan always loves to run in any debate possible, right? But what they miss is that on our side, we continuously told you about how these student politics particularly allow individuals who have been disenfranchised, who have been oppressed by the state, who have no other avenues to find some semblance of hope. They have run no argumentation or even a single rebuttal for the fact that you are stealing away the from those individuals who deserve it perhaps the most. They also never contend with how just by virtue of doing student politics, Whether or not you're successful is another thing. But just by virtue of doing it, you're able to socialize with other individuals that think that these things are problems in and of itself and are worth considering at a national level for policy making decisions. This is solidarity that they never really challenge and continuously try to run, like, trying to swiftly avoid it somehow or some way, right? But what do they do wrong, right? Their entire notion about, oh, look, you can do political awareness, but you can't do political activism, right, is entirely a concession. Because if you say that an individual has the right to go around saying that a political stance is okay or that should be perpetuated within society, is them doing politics in and of itself. So they're conceding with our major principal argumentation that these individuals should at a certain degree be able to do so. We think that they run this concession so hard that they lose this debate simply on that virtue. But coming on to this entire notion about rationality, right? It's really weird that they run this entire rationality point and they build it on the argumentation that, oh, there's so much propaganda that's happening and all of this is going to, make it so that students are always going to be swayed. But you never tell us why this propaganda wouldn't happen after these students graduate or they become seniors or become 40, 50 plus, right? These individuals are still going to have this propaganda. Democracy is still bad. So if in either world, it's still going to be the same thing that's happening, why not let them be a part of, active politics right now? Because they clearly have the same sort of rationality that even a 40, 50, 60-year-old individual has already, right? But secondly, we already tell you that they concede with us that individuals are rational enough to do protests and other awareness campaigns. So if individuals are okay or rational enough to do these campaigns, that we think that they're rational enough to make political decisions about themselves. But thirdly, they never really contend with this idea about multiple narratives existing. Shah Jahan is very wishy-washy about it. Oh, Ali Ozja just said that PSC also exists, hence this argument doesn't stand the same way. No, Shah Jahan, the argumentation is about having different political opinions, a liberal left party, as well as a right party in Jamia, in the form of Jamiat, and both of them having differing ideologies that contend with each other, building narratives and increasing social awareness. Individuals being able to view narratives from either side and being able to make choices about their lives the way they want to. This is what we're talking about, empowering students. Why do you not get this? I don't understand. But fourthly, they never really contend with, and this is their entire line of argumentation, because kids have been from their get-go, they've been socialized to believe in whatever state propaganda they've been given, and they'll never be rational enough to make decisions at all. The initial point rebuts this, but also these are university students. They have had the opportunity not just to learn large texts that talk about these social political problems, but also meet people from different places. By coming to GCE, you're able to meet people from all over Pakistan, from Balochistan, from Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, from Sindh, all of these people with varying different perspectives, often that are contradictory to the state narrative, allow you to increase your visualization of what is actually happening. So saying that university students simply do not have the rationale to make these decisions is absolutely abhorrent and absurd in and of itself. We think they simply lose this debate in and of itself. But secondly, on the point of resources and efficacy, another absurd idea they bring about is this entire notion that, oh, look, an individual does not have enough money, a student hardly affords a pizza slice or a biryani, so how could they afford political engagement? Like, are you seriously considering this as an argumentation, Shah Jahan? The fact is that you pool in resources, like any good political party or any good political union, you pool in resources. Many people have more to give than others, and they're able to pool in that money in order to bring about awareness to individuals. There are active NGOs that invest into these student unions, allowing them to work better and better because they understand that students actively working for their rights is an important thing. Why are you saying that resources are going to be so limited in the first place? Plus, they never really contend with our three-layered analysis about how actual change is going to happen. We tell you that coordinated action plans between individuals is something that's actively possible. We tell you about how lobbying can happen when you go to direct politicians that you can either engage with based on the sort of funds that you would give for their campaigns, or for the fact that some politicians are simply sympathetic towards your cause and would be more inclined to believe in your side or more inclined to do what you're saying. Things like individuals like, PTM, the guy who was voted in by PTM, those guys are more virtually more inclined towards your side and hence are more sympathetic to do so. But they never really contend with this concessions argumentation that we ran. We told you that even if on the worst case scenario, that, all of these student unions are fragmented and they're all doing their own different thing, individually, they're all going to be trying to get certain concessions or get certain policies made up. By the fact that they'll be trying to do that, all of their power and effort is going to be on these rallies and things like that. The state trying to stop them is going to have to put in massive amounts of resources in order to do so. The opportunity cost for the state then is whether or not we put in all of these resources that could be placed in a better position, or we just concede with certain things that these students are talking about. On most instances, these governments are going to at least concede on some small level with the things that these people are saying, simply because of the opportunity cost. They don't want to give all these resources. So we think that's simply a benefit. But something else that I mentioned in the start that they never engage with: awareness, disenfranchisement of those individuals who do not have hope, as well as socialization for individuals. We think that those argumentations are simply left unrebutted by their side. But finally, coming on to the last point and why we win this debate overall, right? This entire notion about right-wing propaganda and how it's so bad. First of all, it's a wash on both sides to say that right-wing propaganda exists, right? Even on your side, right-wing propaganda exists for later stages of life. How is that different? But secondly, and more importantly, right-wing propaganda does not mean that right-wing people do not have legitimate views. Even conservatives, religious people, why does Shah Jahan, Munib, and Iza think that these people do not have legitimate viewpoints that actually deserve to be seen in the light of other individuals? We think that if their only contention with this, and by the way, their contention is not with student politics, it's with the fact that student politics are happening with right-wing propaganda, with right-wing ideology. If right-wing ideology is in itself okay, then we think that they have no reason to contend with this at all. We think that the entire argumentation about that is simply washed away. We think that, on the other hand, what we tell you about how these individuals simply get a space for them to talk about their issues, or are not frustrated by the fact that they do not have other avenues to achieve their goals. We think that on a comparative, that's far more likely for them to not go about trying to be violent towards other individuals. They're only violent in the case of Shah Jahan and Munib. When you take away their political voice, when you take away their political standing, that's what happens when you make it so that an individual has no other chance to get attention other than to create havoc within your society. We think that for all these reasons, you vote for side opposition, because student politics is necessary, it is needed, it is the need of the time. Thank you.
ओके, थैंक यू। अच्छा, आप लोगों में से अब रिप्लाई स्पीचेस किस किसने करनी है मुझे बता दें।
ऑपोजिशन से मैं करूंगा।
अच्छा, और इब्राहिम आपकी टीम से?
मैं करूंगा, नूर अहमद।
नूर अहमद?
हाँ जी, नूर कर लें।
चलें जी, ठीक है, स्टार्ट करें।
Okay. Proposition lose this debate from the very get-go when they do not differentiate between social awareness or the politics. They simply say that, okay, if doctors are doing protest, we always say that, okay, you can also do protest. Show that how if the how politics look different from doing protest, asking for your right, or posting certain things against the state, that okay, they are not giving right to us, they are doing this and that on the social media. We think that they are not going and fight, they're not going and killing the prime minister, that okay, why are you giving this right? We say that this is not how politics look like, right? They think that politics look like that. This is exactly what argumentation they gave, but we think that no, that is exactly how their social awareness or their mechanism of social awareness looks like. So this is their case is no different from the student politics at all. So they lose this debate on that particular concession as well. On to the second idea of the right wing, we say that right wing in and on itself is existing at both sides of the house. That is a simple wash. But on the other hand, we say that or argument does exist. Then we say that okay, these people have legitimacy, and all of these people are not illegitimate. If right wing in and on itself is illegitimate, they need to show to us how. B, we show to that even if that right wing is bad, still you are curbing the right of that particular progressive people in your model. They never answer to that. But when we talked about the ideology, that look, these people who are not from the privileged class, these people who do not have family connection, those people do not have big money, still have chance to get in the politics and do political activism and show that look, we are or enjoy their participatory democracy right there and can exercise that. Munib never engaged with that. We should show that in our model, women is given more right to indulge in the politics. Munib didn't contest to that. We show to you that look, idea is that when you will give a platform to students to progress their rights, the unions like IGT or IGT or unions like who are extremists will actually get a tough competition from the progressive student unions, and will get to know that okay, there are other narratives existing within the state as well. And that's where we show to you that there are two kind of the narrative, and students are rational enough to make the choice. You have given them the right to vote because you think that they are rational to do that, right? If they are rational to choose their leader for 5 years, they are rational enough to choose their political student union leader or their student union narrative on itself. So that whole idea of the choice of rationality falls flat from their side, but that still stands at our side of the house as well. But on to the third thing, we say that we show to you a couple of things within our debate, and we tell you that these two students are very aware of ground realities of each and every particular community. For example, they are studying in the university and they have very diverse, there is a diversification of culture existing within universities. Like GC is called a small Pakistan, where Balochistan people or even Lams, universities who are privileged like Lams are getting students from the Balochistan or Quetta or you can say from the KPK or Hunza. These people get to know that what are their problems, or even if not, there are a lot of opportunities for the Hunza people or from the Balochistan people to get into the politics like they are right not doing. And Shah Jahan knows better because he has a lot of friends from that side, and he know that they are working better in that side. So this is something which he never realized, and just protecting his side of the house, which was again not coming onto any consensus in this debate. But what is that we show to you? We show to you two things within this debate. A, we are making these people to participate in the politics. B, we show to you that how both type of narratives are existing and they are rational enough to make the choice. See, we show to you that how it is important for students to do the politics, because there are a lot of people who are left behind in the politics, but they can get chance to do politics here in the society. But the idea of the right-wing propaganda, which we show to you that is existing in either side of the house, and even if you want them to do politics after the graduation, that propaganda will still be there. So their house is not giving you any benefit because of the fact that they are not sounding logical. We are sounding logical. Simply opposition.
जी बहुत शुक्रिया। अब मैं दावत देता हूँ शाहजहां तार को प्रॉप से।
Okay, am I audible? Just a mic check.
हाँ जी।
Yeah, please. Yeah, I think I'm audible. If anybody's mic is open, can you please close your mic, because my voice is seemingly reverberating. Oh, okay, it's fine now. Okay, I'll be starting in 3, 2, 1. The reason why Shah Jahan Tahir loves right-wing arguments is because Shah Jahan Tahir knows that right-wing does exist as a political force in the society, unlike Ibrahim Naeem, who is too privileged to exist in Johar town within his one canal villa, and to know, he does not even know what right-wing is. I know how Mashal Khan has been lynched in the society, how recently, yesterday, there was a mob that lynched Temple, and majorly young people were there. You know, right-wing does exist in 20th century. You cannot ignore it to begin with, right? What was the fundamental? There were two fundamental contradictions in their case. One, we are not forcing you to join politics. It's completely your choice to join politics, but you have a moral burden to perform politics. And that is what Ali Osjar's argument was. Just because they receive the effects of state oppression, now they have a moral responsibility to act. It can't be choice and it can't be moral burden at the same time, right? So one thing. The second is, if we buy their characterization that people are rational, a rational choice would have that if I'm likely to lose my degree, if I'm likely to miss my exams and my mids, etc., because I'm going to the Liberty Chalk, etc., for protests, etc., this means that very less amount of people are going to come up into your protest and join politics to begin with if you allow rationality to be there, right? In such an instance, very small amount of people are going to join politics. Hence, the kind of deep-rooted change through concession, through coordinated action plans, solutions to whatever mechanisms they're proposing are not simply going to be there. If you want to do politics, that politics has to be concerted, right? That politics has to be invested in. Otherwise, there is no use of such politics, the kind of casual politics Noor says about awareness and etc., right? We think that if you need to bring a change and that yet you want to bring a change, you need to invest properly in politics. And that is ultimately going to compromise your degree for 4 reasons that Iza told you. Because political events are extremely uncertain. You need to be on your tails every moment. You don't know when another event is happening and tomorrow you will be there on Liberty Chalk, right? The idea that the fact that you have ideologues that are continuously telling you the urgency of a revolution, etc. So we don't think that the change mechanistically is going to be brought about in their side, assuming that they're also giving individuals a free choice, and a free choice would have that I am going to save my degree over politics, right? But secondly, we think that in a vast majority of circumstances, and this breaks down their multiple narrative argument that Ibrahim tried to hammer, that was already broken at second, which is the idea that when it comes to things like religious appeal, when it comes to things like appeal from family, when it comes to things like they inciting religious narratives of Khatme-e-Nubuwwat, etc., there leaves no choice to individuals who have been cultivated and have been conformed to religion from their beginning, right? We think in that particular minority. And secondly, the minority of leftists that is actively doing activists will actively be called out when Canada, etc., provide them funds, which Noor has talked about, that they're getting external funding. That is literally a suicide to your case, because you say that, oh, they're not that weak because of the fact they're getting external funding. They are not legitimized because of the fact that they're getting an external funding. We think in that particular instance, your state is able to call them out extremely well, right? Okay, then they say, and now Ibrahim and his team loses this when they try and say, oh, our arguments weren't rebutted. Let me just make you count what arguments of ours weren't rebutted, and they were heavily outweigh what we did not rebut. We told you how it legitimizes narrative that the politics is a very bad thing. Inherently, there's nothing wrong with politics. It's just that when weak people, when vulnerable people are going to do politics and then they're going to fail at it, that then legitimizes and stereotypes the narrative that promotes apoliticization. We think it's worsened off on their side that they did not engage with. But secondly, we told you how parochialism works, how their interactions and experiences are going to be on party lines, right? And hence there isn't going to be a unity between these people, which is required for a concerted political action to be there, right? This idea was never rebutted from their side, right? But also the idea that if you are to bring a concerted change, you need to compromise on your academics to some level. What was the trade-off? We do not understand, right? Also, they give the idea that we are somehow giving underprivileged areas and people belong from them an opportunity to perform politics. If they fail at politics, are you responsible for getting them their degrees back? You are not giving them a social security. You're not giving them a cushion that they could fall back on in an instance where they fail in politics. We think it's criminal on your part. But secondly, if I am someone from Balochistan and Pashtunkhwa and the state has oppressed me, yes, my experience is valid, but it does not incur a responsibility on me to call out the state. The idea is a woman, if is oppressed, it is her choice if he wants to call out or not. We think you do not put a responsibility on these people. That's literally pigeonholing them, right? But secondly, they say extremism happens when you frustrate these people. We're not frustrating these people. They can do politics after graduation. But secondly, for God's sake, Ziaul Haq literally ruled this country. This country was bought on the seeds of Islamization. What are these right-wing people even looking for? And what kind of suppression are they facing? We don't think so they are facing any kind of suppression, right? They're very active beneficiaries of the state. For all of these reasons, there's a contradiction when they say, oh, you do not have we have your choice, but you have a moral burden too. And politics cannot happen if you engage with it casually. Students are likely to lose their degrees and whatnot. For all of these reasons, clearly proposition.
बहुत शुक्रिया दोनों टीम्स का। अब मैं जितने भी सामीन हैं उनके लिए सवालात और जवाबात का सेशन अनाउंस कर रहा हूं। आप लोगों में से किसी का भी आप में से या प्रॉप में से किसी से भी कोई सवाल हो तो आप लोग कर सकते हैं।
If anyone has any questions, you guys can raise your hands and we'll try to answer them as best as possible.
Good speech, boys. Ali, Osja, Muneeb, Shahjahan, Izza, and Ibrahim. Shake hands, you know.
बड़ी खुशगवार हैरत हो रही है कि अभी तक कोई सवाल नहीं है